You know, I think it'd be a lot of fun to do a whole David and Goliath character build. What do you think?
Well, Ted, I suspect you're not talking about the Goliath D&D race, so let us do a Sling Master D&D character build guide.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds.
Now let us launch into this video.
Today we're going to do another character build guide, and this time we are going to make a Sling Master, which is not the most effective weapon in Dungeons & Dragons 5e, but it's a lot of fun. It's thematic for certain races. Halflings are kind of known for using slings. And you know what? As we mentioned earlier, Goliath was felled with a rock from David using a sling. So it can absolutely work. And we're going to do our best. Because this is one of our character build guides, that means two things, right? First of all, there will be a D&D Beyond character sheet that you can kind of check out and see what the final result is. And also a character build that is going to be over on the Dungeon Masters Guild. You can go download it for pay what you want. So that means you can pay nothing or $1 million. Let's pay what you want. So you can check it out, follow along, see how we do it level by level. It's also only fair that we mention that this is a sponsored video from D&D Beyond. You can also find a link to them down in the description. It's a great tool and resource for all your D&D needs. It makes looking up things, finding things, building encounters, characters, and adventures so much easier. So go check out D&D Beyond.
All right, so let's start off looking at our options. And for race, we're looking at 3 of them in particular. We're looking at Halfling because it's thematic. We're looking at Goblin because they've got the ability to do Fury of the Small to give us that extra damage. And we're looking at Human to be able to get access to a feat right at first level.
Now, when we go into class options, we have a ton of options available for us to use. We've got Artificer, Fighter, and Monk. All have different subclass options that come in super handy. Artificer and Monk each have one. And then Fighter gives us like 2 or 3 different options.
So we're also looking at Ranger, Rogue, and Warlock. The Ranger is loaded. I think it's got like 5 subclasses that are going to be able to allow us to add some extra damage onto that piddly little D4 that the Sling is going to do. And then looking at Rogue, we're looking at either Assassin or Hexblade.
So next up, we're going to be taking a look at some of our background options. What do we got over there, Ted?
So you got Folk Hero, which is definitely going to play into the history or the lore angle of what we're looking at. You've got Gambler, which is the total like gunslinger motif, just as opposed to...
And the lucky shot idea, I guess. Yeah.
And as opposed to just whipping out a 6-shooter, you're whipping out your sling. It's kind of amusing, so we thought we'd add that to the list. What else?
Also, Outlander and Soldier could make interesting options as well. So the question is, what do you think we're going to go with? What options do you think we're going to use? What combinations? Because there's literally a ton of different ways to build this particular character build guide. We'll see if yours matches up with ours, and drop your ideas down in the comments below.
While you're down there, don't forget to do all those things that make, Nerdarchy and YouTube happy. Like, share, subscribe, even attune to that notification bell.
Quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, we drop new content, so come over and see what the videos are all about.
So as Dave pointed out, there was a lot of ways to kind of put this together. And we actually wound up, toying around with before we figured out the direction that we were going to go, because there are so many subclass builds to get extra damage. We decided we wanted to have our final build be a little bit simplistic and not have to worry about loads of stat requirements and multi-classing across a lot of different paths. So we looked at one initially that was a Fighter, Ranger, Monk with 4 levels, a level dip into Warlock, and then the rest Rogue, just to double down on sneak attack. Now this one offers a lot of different dice to add into the pool, possibly even more, but it was spread across a lot of things, so you wind up losing out on a lot of the higher tier abilities and fun things that those subclasses are going to wind up working with. So that one was shelved, and we decided to go in another direction.
Yeah, also we just wanted to try and get it online as quick as possible, because heck, most games don't go past level 10 anyway.
All right, so where do we start out from here?
Well, let's go over our stat array, and then people can start trying to guess where we're going to go.
All right, so what do we have for our physicals?
We've got an 8 strength, a 14 dex, and a 13 con.
We're looking at a 15 intelligence, a 10 wisdom, and a 12 charisma.
Now, for our race, we decided to go with human because we wanted to get that feat at first level, and we're actually looking at it a half feat, and it's also kind of a component for this particular build, and is actually the impetus for the build. You know, I really love the Crusher feat that came out in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything because it gives you some control effects on the battlefield, and it's awesome for bludgeoning weapons. But you know, there's actually only one ranged bludgeoning weapon that it works with, and that is the sling. That's like why we went with it. So we're gonna go human, and we're gonna go with a variant so that we can take that feat. That's gonna give us some cool abilities when we hit with our sling bullet once per round. We can move someone 5 feet in any direction. If we crit every attack after that until I think the beginning of our next turn has advantage to hit that target, which is super cool. It's also a half feat. So, you know, we're going to get a bonus to +1 to either strength or con. We're going to take it in constitution.
That's going to give us more hit points throughout the rest of the time playing this one, because we put an odd in that stat on purpose. So totally works well for us. For our background, we went ahead with folk hero. Thematically, I think it works. And since you happen to be really good with a sling, you know, perhaps that is actually related to what you did to get this folk hero status.
And also, I think it's just fun, the concept of every time, you know, our bad guys or opposition sees this particular hero, then he pulls out the sling. They're like, what are you going to do with that? And he's like, boom, and puts it right between their eyes for like a lot of damage.
So from here, we're going to take our first level in Artificer. This is going to give us access to a variety of things. You know, for our build, most of it isn't really looking for what we want to do, but we are going to go with a handful of spells that we feel definitely fit this particular build. For that, we're looking at Mending, you know, to fix our sling if need be, Magic Stone, which is going to work really well as thematically, we think Catapult is a really fun option.
Yeah, that Magic Stone actually brings our sling bullets up to a die 6 instead of a die 4. We can create 3 at a time. They last a minute. So, like, if we're going into battle and we know it's going to happen, we can prepare them beforehand. We can chuck them, or we can put them in our sling as needed. So we're gonna take our Artificer all the way up to 3rd level. 2nd level, we start getting infusions. And what we're going to do is we're going to take Repeating Shot to make our sling magical. And now we don't have to worry about loading it, or even if we have sling bullets or not. They'll just appear in there, and then we can let loose with them. 3rd level, we get to choose our subclass. We're going to choose Battlesmith, which we're going to get a cool Iron Defender, which is awesome. Not that relevant for this particular build, but we get Battle Ready, right? Which is going to allow us to use our intelligence modifier when we attack and damage with a magic weapon, which our sling is, thanks to Repeating Shot.
Yeah, so this is incredibly useful, and now we get to literally outthink our opponent with a sling, which I find amusing. So from here, we're actually going to take a level in Warlock. You know, perhaps it is all this time tinkering around with these magical devices and studying the arcane that has drawn the presence, drawn our attention to some greater being. So we're going to take a level in Warlock. We're going to go right to Hexblade. And this is a single level dip just for us to get access to Hex.
Well, not just Hex, but Hexblade's Curse, right? Which is going to allow us, I think it's once per short rest, so we can curse someone. That means we're going to be able to crit them on a 19 or a 20. We're also going to be able to add bonus damage equal to our proficiency modifier. So we only need our level in order to do that. So, you know, we're going to be able to stack up things, make us more potent. Also, I do like the idea that their artificers are tinkering with making magic weapons. And one of the early incarnations of the Hexblade is the idea that you serve a magic weapon. Like, maybe you serve your sling now. That's become your patron somehow.
It is quite comical to look at it in that direction. So yeah.
From here, we're going to go back to Artificer for 2 levels, What we're looking for is our ASI. We want to increase our intelligence because that's going to be our to hit or to damage our spells. And then we're also going to go up to 5th level in Artificer. So now we can get extra attack. We're a 6th level character. We can attack twice a round, and we're really only behind by 1 level.
You know, but continuing on with Artificer is going to continue to give us access to more spells, whether it is to cast Hex or whether it is to cast Magic Stone or any of the other useful spells that might fall into the realm of what we're doing. From here, we're going to jump into Fighter, and we're going to stay with it for a while, as there's a number of things that we're looking for. All right, so we're going to take Fighter for 6 levels. We're going to take at 1st level Fighter, we get access to our fighting style. Obviously, we're going to take Archery. At 3rd level, we're going to get access to our fighter tradition. For this one, we're going to take Psi Warrior, so we can get psionic power to be able to add those extra dice to our sling attacks.
Yeah, that's going to give us the psionic attack, I believe, that you can just add to 1 attack around, which is going to be, based on whatever die it's up to. It starts at a die 6. Another ability that works off of your proficiency modifier. It's actually twice your proficiency modifier. So, it may not get as powerful as other Psi Warriors, but you're going to have just as many dice as they would whether you take 1 level of Psi Warrior or you take 20. It doesn't actually matter. You end up with the same amount of dice. So that's really cool. We're also going to get 2 more ASI. We're going to take intelligence to max out our intelligence. And also we are going to take a feat, and we're going to take Sharpshooter. So now we can ignore range penalties. We can take a -5 to get a +10. We can ignore cover as well.
This is really stacking up to be, pretty impressive, pretty useful with the amount of dice that you're going to be able to couple onto that single sling bullet. It's pretty nice. From here, we're going to take 4 more levels of Artificer. And what we're really looking for here is to get to 9th level Artificer and to get Arcane Jolt so that we can add that 2d6 damage on top of everything else that we're really piling onto this sling.
Yeah, but not only that, we're also going to get a +2 to con from another ASI along the way. And also, Arcane Jolt can also be used to heal or harm. So, you can use it to help your allies or yourself, or you can just do damage.
So we're going to dip 2 more levels into Fighter, specifically just to bump that con up to get another ASI. I imagine even though we're fighting ranged, this character is going to need to be somewhat tanky and take some damage. After all, you've got a lot of levels of Fighter, so bolstering our con is going to be really useful.
Also, Telekinetic Adept is going to make us more mobile on the battlefield and just give us more options.
So we're going to finish off taking 2 more levels of Artificer. This is going to give us Magic Item Adept as well as Spell Storing Item. It takes us all the way to level 20 to get access to this last ability, but we now be able to put some spells in our cool sling.
Yeah, by the time we reach 10th level in this build, I feel like we're there. We have a super effective character. I feel like we get effective before that, but we should really start to get focused, down when we get to those higher levels. All along the way, this character is going to have a lot of options. It's going to be really good at our ranged combat and using the sling in particular. You could also do a bunch of other things. You could definitely, carry, bludgeoning weapons that are melee weapons in order to use that crusher feat up close and personal if you get stuck and have to do it as well.
Yeah, all of the abilities, you could literally switch over from sling to a maul or any other, hammer type weapon. And it all is going to fit, but it's not as fun and thematic. Sharpshooter is the only thing that winds up being a loss for you if you have to go straight into melee. But it's not really a big deal.
Well, and archery. Archery is really nice too.
Yeah, that's true. But there's definitely a lot of fun here. There's definitely, an amusing character build that you can do all of this with. But we get to the end, so now it's time. How do you use this as an NPC?
As an NPC, I love the idea of turning it back into the goblin or the halfling and just using it to humble the party a little bit when, they kind of get their ass whomped on by this Yoda-like figure, right, that uses a sling instead of a lightsaber.
From maximum range, they just, whip this little, stone around and knock your butt on the ground.
Or even better, like you're in town and maybe your players are being a little ornery, maybe, a little murder hobo even. And one of the, the big burly barbarian or fighters like talking smack and being an ass, and are like standing in front of a well, in the center of town, and like the sheriff is this halfling, like pulls out the sling and hits him with it right in the chest and knocks him into the well.
I love this. I love this idea of the halfling sheriff, and totally Wild West style. And he comes into town, tips up his little hat, and pulls out this little leather thong, and just knocks somebody on their ass.
Yeah, like he like drops it and unfurls it. There's not even a stone in it, and he starts spinning it because it's the repeating shot. The stone just forms magically, and then he's able to let loose and have this one sling bullet that's gonna you're gonna roll a fistful of dice like it's a fireball.
So now I've got this, amazing image pictured of this, fantasy style, Wild West sheriff with his robot dog sitting next to him. All right. I'm going crazy now. Sorry, guys.
There's just a couple ideas. I mean, I feel like you could do a lot with this particular idea. I like the idea instead of a halfling sheriff, you could do some kind of like goblin tribal defender, and they're kind of sent out to track down threats to the tribe or the clan, and they begin stalking the party using hit and run tactics with their iron defender. This beast is able to make them really mobile. They can hit somebody with their sling stones, and then the iron defender just uses his action to dash away, and constantly keeping them out of range. The iron defender's ability to cause disadvantage if you get too close is going to be super useful, and make for an interesting combat encounter. What do you guys think? How would you use it in your game? Let us know. We'd love to hear about it. And also, if you need another idea, why don't you check out the CENTAUR for disease control?
If you'd like to help Nerdarchy keep making videos like this one, why not head over to Patreon and support us over there?
As a reward, you'll receive 5e monthly content for players and DMs alike, a chance to game with us, and more.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.